It's a great rabbit hole, and it makes a whole lot of sense that there's an actual and I knew you probably knew this, which is why I asked you. I knew you had an answer, rather, that there is some sort of an evolutionary basis for that sort of that ability that people have to look at someone as the other.
You bet. Well,
Yeah.
also, how the hell are you going to respond in war if you don't have that?
Right,
You know,
and
like-
that was always an issue with people. With invading tribes, and like you said, with other external threats, whether it was animals or insects or snakes or anything that could kill you.
Yeah, well, and I mean, in a primordial situation, I
Yes.
mean, guys are in warrior mode a good part of the time, and modern people don't even know what that's like. That's
Right.
why they go out and they go into warrior mode and they get post-traumatic stress disorder, because it's so unlike the way they configure themselves that they can't even bridge the gap between the two identities.
And for just for sake of clarity, I think for some folks, post-traumatic stress disorder has actually come from not just that, but also from the threat of being attacked. From what I understand, people like special ops people like Rangers and Navy SEALs and the like, are less likely to develop post-traumatic stress disorder because they're acting versus reacting. That whereas people that are on that are going on like patrol and then they get blown up, like those people apparently have a far more likely issue with post-traumatic stress disorder because they're constantly worried about these external threats. And then when they come back to civilization, they have a very difficult time getting back to baseline.
Yeah, they're in prey mode.
Yes.
Really, in a very serious way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not just acting, but it's also reacting. That the reacting issue sometimes is even more problematic for the individual than the acting mode.
Yeah, well, there's a funny dichotomy there, because very frequently, if you're going to encounter a stress, it's best to do it voluntarily, because you use a whole different circuit. Use the approach circuit. And so, I mean, that sounds paradoxical, what you just said, because I said that, you know, people often observe themselves doing something and get post-traumatic stress disorder. And then you said, well, yeah, but if people act, they're less likely to. But that's part of a more general phenomena, which is that in the face of a stressor, you're better off psychophysiologically to act voluntarily. You're either going to be the thing that advances on the anomaly, or it's prey. That's roughly the way to think about it. And to be a prey animal is a terrible thing, because it's doom, it's paralysis. Like, literally speaking, it's like in the Harry Potter series with the basilisk, right? You look at the basilisk and it turns you to stone. Well, why? Well, because that's what happens to a prey animal when a horrible predator looks at it. It's frozen. It's turned to stone. That's Medusa with all her snakes, right? She looks at you, man. Mother Nature looks at you. The devouring part of Mother Nature opens her eye on you. It's like you're paralyzed. That's an old story.
That is a really interesting thing that I never considered, that Medusa does have this head of snakes, and she looks at you, she turns you into stone, and that is the biggest issue with people. It's not fight or flight. People think it's fight or flight. It's fight, flight, or freeze.
Right.